Ye vast ye mateys, we be going down under, and I'm Laz.
And I'm Cody.
And we not be across the pond, but we be across the other pond.
The show where we bring existential dread with a nice, warm, happy feeling.
That we be.
I'm really liking the pirate accent. It's a good start. Good way to start the episode.
I don't even know what I did, because I went into like a half French accent somewhere there too. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
But I just like doing funny sounding accents. And also I'm gonna be eating a peanut butter sandwich, but like I'm gonna try not making mastication noises into the mic, which that does not mean masturbate. It sounds like the word masturbate, but it's masticate. Look it up. Old
Are you
people
gonna masticate
do it sometimes.
with your mandibles?
Yeah, like old people do it just when that's like their idle state sometimes, just masticating all the time. Just sitting there masticating.
Oh my goodness. Speaking of old
without
people,
having anything in their mouth.
Today's episode is going to be about nihilism. Optimism with nihilism, and also in general at the beginning we're going to talk about Nietzsche for a little bit because he's a crazy old man from what I've heard. So while you eat that peanut butter sandwich, I'm going to read this quote of from Stephen Zweig's essay Friedrich Nietzsche. So it's a sketch of Nietzsche's way of life.
Okay.
No devilish torture is lacking in this dreadful pandemonium of sickness. Headaches, deafening, hammering headaches, which knock out the really Nietzsche for days and prostrate him on a sofa in bed, stomach cramps with bloody vomiting, migraines, fevers, lack of appetite, weariness, hemorrhoids, constipation, chills, night sweats, a gruesome circle. In addition, there are his 3/4 blind eyes, which at the least exertion begin immediately to swell and fill with tears and grant the intellectual worker only an hour and a half of vision a day. But Nietzsche despises this hygiene of his body and works at his desk for 10 hours. And for this excess, his overheated brain takes revenge with raging headaches and a nervous overcharge. At night, when the body has long become weary, it does not permit itself to be turned off suddenly, but continues to burrow in visions and ideas until it is forcibly knocked out by opiates. But ever greater quantities are needed. Then the stomach refuses to pay so high a price and rebels. And now, vicious circle, spasmodic vomiting, new headaches which require new medicines, an inexorable, insatiable, passionate conflict of the infuriated organs, which throw the thorny ball of suffering to each other as in a mad game. Never a point of rest in this up and down, never an even stretch of contentment, or a short month full of comfort and self-regretfulness.
I think the moment of silence should have been for Nietzsche. And if you guys don't know it, like before we do the podcast, we always do a moment of silence, and I'll always say something like let's have a moment of silence for the future veterans of every war or something, because like we need to get background noise for the noise cancellation thing. And I feel like it should have been for Friedrich Nietzsche. After hearing that, it sounds like he had IBS times like 17. Like,
yeah, and that was like...
No wonder he said God is dead.
I mean, it's in the 1880s, so I can totally get the medicine's probably not great in terms of like how to diagnose him for stuff like that. But sometimes I'm reading through Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and I'm like, Nietzsche, you need to take some of your own advice, because you're just kind of suffering for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he wrote this. It's Thus Spoke Zarathustra is like one of his most famous works, and it's 4 parts, and he wrote them all within like 10 months or something. I think maybe it was 10 years. It's relatively quick for like the scale of the book.
Mm-hmm. And if you guys, the audience, aren't aware of what this work is, Thus Spake Zarathustra, well, first of all, it means Well, no. Okay, I'm thinking of the German title, like also sprach Zarathustra. But like, the thing is, there was a tone poem written by Richard Strauss Jr. in the beginning of the 20th century, and you probably recognize it.
Yep, I know exactly what piece it is.
Bum, 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 beep 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 beep. But see, like, and that scene that starts off in the book is like, Zarathustra, like he was like, what is the word in English? Hermited himself in the mountains for like years, and then he at the beginning that
for 10 years specifically.
10 years, okay, that's a good round number. But like that tone poem, the beginning of it is talking it well, it's kind of spelling out the scene where he comes out of the cave and decides to go down into the world and start teaching people about the new way of the Übermensch, you know, and like that God is dead. Yeah, the Overman. And first of all, I just want to say fuck Hitler, because like Hitler actually took his shit and said, "Oh, this is about the Aryan race, and it's about being, I don't know."
Like, yes. So the problem with Nazis is that unless you specifically say Nazis don't fucking use this, they're like that applies to me. And it's like, no, you asshole. I don't understand how anybody can read Nietzsche and think that like Hitler at all was being honest about using it, besides the fact of the word Übermensch, because like section 4 or whatever immediately is like the state is a fucking nightmare. Like people are just people. There shouldn't be like, you know, countries and states. The state is just to fuck people over. So always just completely in bad faith when anybody takes an ideology like that and is like, I'm going to rule a government like this.
Yeah, like it, you know, like, because like what I get from Nietzsche is just like that we need to be our own person, and you know, we have to, like, I mean, like, did we want to talk about like the Übermensch and God is dead in a little bit, or did you have some more stuff to say about Nietzsche himself? Because like I know he's also, I mean, that state I can imagine being completely crazy. And you know, it reminds me of another existentialist, the original existentialist, a lot of people say, is Kierkegaard. Because
I have not read any of his stuff yet, but I've heard of his name.
But he Soren Kierkegaard was also someone that was just sickly all the time, and he died at like 34. You know?
Yeah. Apparently Nietzsche went like completely insane in the last like 8 years of his life or something. And
he was taken care of by a lot of different, like, yeah. It was like a cycle of different women all the time taking care of him, right?
Yep. And I think they were all family in some form or way. They actually didn't want the 4th section of Zarathustra published because they thought it would get censored for blasphemy. So they actually withheld it until after his death.
Really?
Yep. So he never actually was even alive for the final publication of the book. But he wrote so much in the last like 10 or 15 years of his life, because he wrote Will to Power, Ecce Homo or something. He definitely wrote a lot, but from what I've read, he wasn't like a very interesting person to talk to. Apparently, he put all of his interesting conversations into the book.
Well, I remember like some of the last years of his life when he was being taken care of by multiple people. Like there was one time where they were just like walking about, and then there was like a herd of cows that just like interrupted their route, and so he just got down on his knees and started yelling at them. It's like, it's you, existence is futile or something like that. And then like just like the lady that was with him was just like, what is this guy doing? You know?
Yep, we've gone full crazy.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird to me that because like you look at some of like the most famous existentialists, you have you know,
Kierkegaard, Nietzsche.
You have Sartre. And Sartre, you know, Sartre had like, and I'm being pretentious by pronouncing it like French, you know, but let me do it the good old country potatoes American Sartre, you know.
Sartre. I like Sartre. Sartre. Then you get that R-E at the end.
Okay, let's do Sartre. But Sartre, like if you ever seen a picture of him, he has like this bug eye, kind of like Mad Eye Moody.
Oh yeah, he's like a lazy eye basically.
Mm-hmm. And so like all of the existentialists had something to them. I mean, like I can imagine why now. I never actually knew that Friedrich Nietzsche. I knew like his late years he was like really like bedridden all the time, but I didn't know that it was like most of his life, you know, and that he had all that stuff. Because that sounds kind of like, a lot of it sounds like what I go through with IBS and like anxiety and stuff, but like times 14, you know?
Yeah. Like doctors are like, you need to just use your eyes for like an hour a day. Otherwise just let them rest. And he's like, I'm gonna write for 10 hours.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. I mean, like,
if there is a great amount of persistence clearly in his character to be like, I want to get through all of this writing that I have in my brain. So I'm just going to do it no matter what the suffering is. But there's also a part of me that's like, maybe he wouldn't have gone crazy if he took a little better care of himself.
Well, I mean, like, I wonder if people back in the day had that kind of awareness, because I feel like that kind of awareness didn't really come until maybe even like more of the introduction of more Eastern ideas. Because like
maybe, I mean, especially because he's just diagnosed with opiates basically, and opiates on opiates, you're just going to get addicted and they're going to interact in terrible ways and just make you worse and worse basically. So pretty much screwed as soon as he went to the doctor, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about like Western civilization that has kind of like pushed us towards this kind of like I don't know, like, and I wonder if nihilism, our main topic today, is partly the cause of this idea of, because like one thing is what I saw on one of these videos is saying, I think it was Nietzsche that actually said it, is that science is the basis of the meaninglessness that we face now. Because like here actually there's another great quote by Nietzsche here. Let me how do I exit out of this? Let me see. Oh my god, I'm trying to figure this out. No, what, how can I? Oh no. Oh, here it is. Okay. So
it's like, don't close out of anything.
Let me open this up really quick and just see just the screen that, okay. This is one that I got from the second video I sent you. So, and we'll put up the link for everyone to watch it too. It's just an introduction to nihilism. I was just like, refreshing my brain for some of this stuff. But he says, a scientific interpretation of the world, as you understand, might therefore still be one of the most stupid of all possible interpretations of the world, meaning that it would be one of the poorest in meaning. This thought is intended for the ears and consciousness of our mechanists, who nowadays like to pass as philosophers and insist that mechanics is the doctrine of the first and last laws on which all existence must be based, as on the ground floor. But an essentially mechanical world would be an essentially meaningless world, assuming that one estimated the value of a piece of music according to how much of it could be counted, calculated, and expressed in formulas. How absurd would such a scientific estimation of music be? What would one have comprehended, understood, and grasped of it? Nothing. Really nothing of what is music in it. And that really...
It's a really great quote.
Because, like, I have thought about this before. Like, the more you, like, pick at things, the more I mean, the more you see the inner workings of things, the more it kind of feels like not magical. You know what I'm
lose
saying?
the wonder the more you, like, say you have like a magic puzzle cube that is just a sphere on the outside. How are you going to fit? You don't know how to figure it out. It's a wonder to do that. But as you work at it and figure out how it works on the inside, you lose some of that
more
wonder
more,
because you realize, it's just
like
it's just a piece of mechanic. It's just a mechanical toy. So there's something said about
it becomes more and more mundane. Right?
Yeah, instead of a wondrous puzzle. That's why I never solve any puzzles. I just leave them sitting around.
I don't necessarily fully agree with this quote because like I do see like, you know, boiling everything down to mechanics, it does get kind of drudgy, but like at the same time sometimes like you build upon the wonder by exploring these mechanics. You know, like
I mean, I think it comes down to the level of meaning you prescribe to those mechanics. Like the way his quote says that when you break it all the way down to those things, you're saying this is only the mechanics.
Yeah,
and
like
you can still
there's
treat
the
it
part
as,
where they say the doctrine of the first and last laws in which all existence must be based on. Like, I don't think it's that, but at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, marveling at the structure of a building, you know, that has been built. You know, like for instance, like Taipei 101. It's a marvel because like you look at like, what is it, the 80th floor where they just have that giant pendulum that keeps it straight when everything else shakes, because in Taiwan they have a lot of earthquakes.
Yeah. So you build earthquake-proof buildings.
Yeah. So it's 101 story building, but like, and to keep it balanced, they just put a giant like steel ball at like the 80th floor or something.
And that is insane. That's actually
and
just
like
crazy.
To see that mechanic is, to me, it adds to the wonder of it. And I feel like knowing the mechanics of things is not necessarily like, it doesn't really take away from the wonder. But I also understand one thing is that it's what science is what led to the proclamation of God is dead.
Yep.
You know,
perfect segue.
Because like how I understand it is God as we know him, and I would say it because like I see God as like an entity behind
human reasoning. Yeah, for sure.
So like how I see it is more God as we know it is dead, because like what we've done with science is we killed him. And I think one of the what is it, I think actually Nietzsche has said that before. It's like it's like God is dead and we have killed him, you know?
Yeah.
And you've killed him,
I think
or something
that's the
like that.
Paraphrase. Yeah. Because the idea is that for a long time before science was really a main like driving force of discovery, religion was the answer to all those questions. So what's the meaning of life? Well, God gave us life and he gave us meaning and purpose to do something.
And
for
not
him.
just that, but and God gave us everything.
Yeah. And we and you're trying to answer the question way back when of why are we the only species that can talk and communicate and think the way that we do at the time like that. So you're like, okay, there must have been some kind of crazy thing that spawned us, gave us life, and gave us a purpose to pursue throughout our life. And then as you get more scientific and stuff and realize, wait, we're not the center of the universe. Wait, there are other animals that can think pretty close to the way we do in terms of like they just don't have speech the way that we perceive speech. Suddenly you're looking at maybe we weren't given a purpose in this life from some divine entity, and there isn't a second world to strive for. So God is dead and we need to become the Ubermensch, the Overmen, and become the best version of humanity for this world, this only life, instead of striving for a second life and an afterlife.
Well, you know what the Ubermensch is supposed to do, and you kind of touched up on it, is the Ubermensch is supposed to replace God.
Yeah,
like
and establish the last men.
because like it is like kind of like placing our evolutionary goalpost on ourselves as like the future human gods, you know, like being. And I think, what is it? That one Israeli dude, Noah Yuval or something like that. He did like the trilogy about like the future of humanity and like the like Homo sapiens, something like that. I forgot what his name.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah,
there might be an old episode.
Set of books. I read all three of them. Well, listened to the last one. I think I read a little bit of it too. But like we're on a pathway to slowly becoming gods kind of things. And the thing is, gods as we knew it back then. Because, like, you know, the thing is, the miracles that God and Jesus performed back in the day, nowadays, it's not really that marvelous. You know, it's like changing water to wine. You know, that's like the go-to one. It's like, well, a lot of people nowadays will like can do things that are like, you know, also kind of like miraculous like that, right?
Yeah, and just modern science, just modern technology that can refine.
Can probably
we taught a rock to think with computers.
I've never heard of that. You know,
that's basically what it is. That's what electricity is. We took a rock, silica, and pumped it full of electricity and made it think in binary. We just tricked a rock to think.
And like we have also done things like, you know, put a man on the moon and whatnot. Like that's another thing. Like even like going back to like when people started talking about the heliocentric universe, that started really making people think, because then they were like, wait a minute, the Earth isn't the center of everything, you know, and it starts getting the gears turning in people's heads. And science is what really, and maybe that's even why some people are still very against science to this day, is because people see it as blasphemy.
Yeah. I mean, plenty of people were killed by the church for spouting scientific fact at the time. Because even then they were still wrong. You're just discovering the best that you can without just reading from some Bible that's been passed down for generations, basically.
Well, like, and the other thing that really, that's kind of crazy to me is I don't understand why people can't just see, you know, science as a study in the language of God, you know?
Okay.
Like I've always thought that would be, you know, just the right path, because you're just kind of figuring out the mechanics of the universe.
Yeah. And if God created everything, then that's what he did.
That's what we're just trying to get closer to God with science. So I don't understand why people don't see it like that. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
That's a really insightful way to look at it. I'm sure that, I mean, I know that when I was younger, I would talk with my friends that were in Christian circles and stuff. And yeah, there wasn't, even back then, there wasn't a science is blasphemous. It was trying to find a harmonious way to have your Christian religion and the advent of science, basically. Because like the Catholic Church is pro-evolution. Like the Pope has said that. Like,
well, I mean, like, and they have like church scientists, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Catholic Church funded a lot of science in the early days.
Like, and you know, like I think the reason I have that kind of thinking nowadays is actually because I watched like a documentary of one of their like scientists that said this specifically. They were like, we study science because we believe it's the language of God, you know? And I think that's an excellent way of looking at it.
It's very insightful. Yeah.
And I think that in one sense, the Übermensch is not, for me at least, isn't a replacement of God like I think Nietzsche wanted it to be, but more of a tool to get even closer to God. Because like for me, like I am someone that's has faith in God, but in God, not in God as it is as it is described in the Bible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess
like,
more deist or deist.
I think God is more, for me, is more of something like Tao, you know? It's more of something like, it's not anything that we can comprehend, and it's certainly not something that is mirrored in the human species. Like, I think it's just like, it's kind of like three-dimensional objects trying to understand the fourth dimension and only being able to see a three-dimensional shadow, you know? Same thing with if you try to get a three-dimensional object in a two-dimensional plane, you're only going to see a cross-section, you know?
Yeah.
And it'll look like it's like transforming like in crazy ways as it moves through the dimensional space through that second dimensional cross section. It's going to look like something that just doesn't belong in this world. It's moving in ways that you can't comprehend, you know? And I think like God is something like that. It's something that we just can't comprehend. And the thing is, we just need to know that it works in a certain way. I don't even know. With me, like, it's more like I get, the more I think of it, the more I feel like I'm like getting into a new like thought process of like neo-Taoism or something like that. But anyway, like getting back to God is dead, I think now like we're realizing, you know, well, what do you have to say?
About the God is dead section there, right at the, like, basically to pivot into the next part of nihilism probably, is that saying God is dead also kills the purpose of mankind at that point. Like, the whole purpose was to become closer to God so you can ascend to heaven. That was the purpose of life, basically. And then for Nietzsche to say God is dead, we need to become the overmen, is you are like, what's the meaning of life now? There's no purpose. There's nothing to like grab onto as a higher entity that is like enforcing a purpose on you. So you can either go two directions with it. And I think nihilism's kind of like basically that intro to nihilism that I've talked about. But you go into the humanity has to find its own purpose, or you go into the everything is meaningless and there doesn't have to be a purpose route of nihilism, I think.
Yeah. So,
which I think is the popular side that that makes nihilism look bad.
Yeah, and actually, I had a teacher in high school that I remember, like when I was like 16, I wrote an essay about how I don't understand why people think nihilism is pessimistic. It can be optimistic too. I remember when I was a 16-year-old, I was thinking like this because I read a lot of Aldous Huxley, you know, and like his Doors to Perception. I opened my third eye back in high school. No, but anyways, like, yeah, like I remember writing an essay being like, if not everything is meaningless, doesn't that mean you can just make your own meaning about the world? And then he was like, stop riding the fence. It's like nihilism doesn't work like this. And then lo and behold, 10 years later, like Kurzgesagt comes out with a video about optimistic nihilism. And also Rick and Morty comes out, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like Rick's whole spiel too, is just like, the universe means nothing. Do whatever you want, you know?
Yeah, make your own. You have to define your own purpose to find happiness in life, basically. And I think I think nihilism should be used more as a lens of like shaping your mental framework in a way, instead of using it as a sense of like direction in life. Because nihilism has no direction. It negates meaning. That's the default form of nihilism. So to just say, I'm a nihilist, I follow nihilism, you don't follow anything. Like, I feel like if you just prescribe I'm a nihilist, you are just throwing away the infinite possibility of life, basically, of assigning yourself some kind of purpose for your own happiness.
Yeah, well, see, the thing about nihilism is that it can be used as a tool, like you said. And this is something I learned from Sartre, or Sartre, you know, like it's nihilism. What it really means, and in the Chinese translation that I read, they had this concept of 虚无化, which means to nihilicize, you know, like to take something and nihilicize it. What it meant was like to completely strip it of its meaning and utility.
Okay.
You know, an object. For instance, like I was talking to Fanfan today in the car while we were going into St. Louis, and I told her, like, take a hammer. You think as soon as you get a hammer in your hand, you don't even have to think of it. You know what it's supposed to do. But if you nihilicize it, it's just an object. It has no meaning. Like the only reason a hammer is a hammer, you know, is because it's been assigned a task, and that we as humans have a goal to do, which is build things, you know? And so that's when all of a sudden a piece of steel on top of
a wooden handle,
a piece of a tree, you know, all of a sudden, even wood itself, it's just a piece of tree, you know, like even in nature, it really, I mean, you can say in one sense that a hammer is natural because it's an extension to the nature of human. But yeah,
I don't think you could say that a hammer is not going to naturally exist.
Okay. This is something I always contend with people, because people, meaning you and Fanfan, both don't agree with me on this. Okay, I think buildings and everything that humans have built is natural. And the example I always give is ants and ant hills. Is an ant hill not a natural thing? It's something that the ant has built, and it's an extension of the ant's essence. You know, like if the ant didn't exist, there would be no ant hills.
It's true.
It's the same
I get
thing
your argument.
with bees.
Makes sense.
If bees didn't exist, there would be no beehives. So that's the thing. It's an extension of the bee's nature. I think with humans, our tools, our buildings, everything we have built as human beings is natural, because it's an extension of the human tendency, you know, and the human nature.
That makes sense. So, I mean, and it fits into your Taoist philosophy, basically, of that we're actually part of nature, because that's where the disconnect comes in. If you view humans as a part of nature, then yes, everything we do is natural. But if you put us outside of nature, which actually, the more you talk about it, the more I actually agree with you, and I kind of I'll rescind that a hammer is not natural in that sense, because you're right, we are a part of nature. Everything we do is natural in that sense. Unnatural things would be outside of nature, which we are not.
Which I don't know how that would be a thing. That's
Maybe
the thing.
Ghosts.
How can someone be unnatural? See, the thing is, when people say, ghosts, but like when people say unnatural, I think what they mean is harmful to
the rest of
humans.
The ecosystem.
Well, and the thing is also, I don't like when people say we need to save the planet, because, and hear me out, I'm not talking about like, because like global warming's not a thing or whatnot, but like what I'm talking about is that the reason we're trying to fix up the environment is to save ourselves, because the planet and the universe doesn't give a shit.
Back to nihilism, baby.
Like, yeah, and it comes back to nihilism, because really the universe doesn't care that the Earth exists.
Oh yeah,
you know, and even the universe doesn't even care that it itself exists.
Yeah,
so it's just going to be, if humans fuck up the Earth for ourselves, then nature, like the universe doesn't care.
Yeah, we'll go extinct. Something else will take our place. It's exactly what happened with the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Not that they fucked up the environment, but
like I think we need to save we need to save our environment, but I don't think it's save. It's more like we need to fix our environment for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it, I mean, like you can also extend it to like, let's care for other living beings too. And so like the reason I think it's a stupid phrase to say, let's save the planet, because the planet, you know, like if we just pollute everything, the planet eventually, after millions of years, is just going to reset itself, like with or without us.
Yep.
You know, because like we're going to fuck up our environment so much that like we're going to make ourselves extinct. And then the planet's going to be like, huh, okay, reset and no humans this time, I guess. You know, like that's why I don't care about people saying save the planet, because like when what they really mean is let's save ourselves from our own destructive behavior. Yeah. And also save like other living beings, which I completely agree on. I just don't agree with this idea of let's save the planet, because the planet doesn't care. The planet's going to save itself.
Also, the way you're messaging will feed into those with selfish desires, and maybe they'll actually listen. Yeah, it's all about messaging.
Yeah, and see, like, and I've talked to you about this. You got to learn the language of different people, different factions and whatnot, because a lot of people say the same things. They just say it in words that anger other people, you know? Uh-huh. So anyway, like, and so this is where I'm kind of getting down, like even getting down to this idea that the universe doesn't care about people. This is like the main thing in like, this is a main thing in sci-fi, and especially in like what is it? Lovecraftian sci-fi. Lovecraft was a big proponent of the universe doesn't give a shit. Lure ants to the universe.
Yeah.
You know, Cthulhu arises and we're just like little ants that he accidentally steps on and doesn't even think about, you know? Cause like, it's like, think about it every day. We're probably killing maybe even millions of microorganisms just by walking. I don't know, even
billions,
probably
actually.
Even, or even like breathing, you know, like, and even driving, you know, like as much as it pains me, like I've accidentally ran over like squirrels or something that just jump out of nowhere, you know. I couldn't do anything about it. You know, what could I do in that moment? You know, it really made me sad, but you know, see, that's kind of, what is it? Where was I getting for it? But like, see, like we kind of just, our existence is sometimes death like that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you don't know when you're going to die. Nobody knows. It's just it's a pre-described date that you will eventually have. And it could come sooner, could come later. Who knows? But you have to live anyway. So you should make the most of it, I think. So create your own meaning. Don't let somebody even force a purpose on you.
Well, and, you know, that's like, sometimes that's hard to get out of.
Because, 100%. Like, it's life is hard.
Well, yeah. Yeah, dude.
It is.
Like, I mean, like in that also, it just in that phrase too, like, cause like even in, and I think this is why Taoism, Buddhism have kind of like, I feel like survived past Christianity, is because like, they acknowledge more of an emptiness and more
there's a
of
void in the end.
And actually, I think like the phrase God is dead that Nietzsche proclaimed, that is actually the opposite of blasphemy. It's more of that we have realized that our vision of God before was not the real vision of God. And then now we got to go find out the super God, you know?
This is to go even further beyond.
Because, like, it's the same in, like, Chinese society and all societies throughout the world. To be honest, like, to proclaim God is dead is such a powerful phrase, because it doesn't just mean that the Christian God is dead. It means every belief that we had about, you know, the universe as we know it is wrong. And we have to explore past it, and which is being done through science nowadays. Like, and science is like is almost like a universal religion, you know, in a certain sense.
Yeah, there's certainly some people that feel that way.
You know, I'm not talking about Scientology. It's not about science at all. But like, it's because like if we acknowledge that our vision of God is wrong, then we can start going towards the true meaning. You know, it's like you when you realize that you made a mistake and you start like atoning for it, then that's when you can actually start making progress. And I think that in our, because I also think it's a lot like 2001: A Space Odyssey, you know, where
it feels like a pretty nihilist film. I think that's why they use that "Thus spoke Zarathustra" as the theme.
Actually, I never really thought of it that way. Yeah, that's interesting. Because like,
yeah, it's a defining part of that movie is to use "Thus spoke Zarathustra" as the theme,
and like, because it's like it. Well, actually, yeah, it does make sense because like the whole movie is about. I mean, book and movie, you can say, like, both are very different, but both have good messages. It's like, it's about evolution.
Yeah.
You know? And evolution in and of itself is also an expression of our human nature. You know,
move
like
forward. Yep.
Yeah. And to change, you know? And like you see, like, in the beginning of the movie, you see spoilers, I guess, if you've never seen that masterpiece of a film. But like, you know, the beginning, it's just like monkeys like fighting each other, and like one tribe is having problems like defeating another tribe, and then they see the monolith, and then the monolith causes them to evolve. And like, just one day, like after they see the monolith, like a monkey just picks up a bone and starts using it as a club. And then that's when the tables turn. They just all pick up bones and start beating the shit out of the other tribe, and they win. And then from there, they go all the way to the space age. Then they find it again, the monolith on the moon, and then they're able to build like space cruisers that can go to Jupiter, and then they go to Jupiter, or in the movie, I think it's Saturn, and then like. Later on, like the captain turns into the Star Child at the end, you know, and then pretty much like a god-like existence. You know, he just becomes pretty much energy in the universe, you know, and like in the book, you see the evolution from humans to putting our essence, like our minds, into like robotic exoskeletons.
With Hal, yep,
and then. From there, well, not with how, like in the book. Have you read the book?
Yeah, I read the book. It's been a hot minute.
Because like, yeah, like they actually start putting people in robots. Like they upload their brains into robots, their soul or whatever essence it is. And then from there, they just become pure energy in the universe, you know? And then like, there's a lot of stuff in like sci-fi where it goes from, like it always goes from, you know, just becoming pure energy and then uploading all of humanity's minds into one
giga
like,
consciousness.
God. Yeah. You know, and it's the same. You see it a lot in like a whole bunch. And depending on how people look at the world, it can either be a good thing or a bad thing. You know, if you're more collectivist, then you'll see it as a good thing. If you're more individualist, you'll see it as a bad thing. Like think of like I won't spoil it for people, but Code Geass, that has that kind of trope at the end, right? And I would say that is anti-collectivist. It's more individualist. And then you have what is it? Eva, which is kind of a mixture. It's kind of like a neutral way of looking at it. Well, actually, there's fighting factions between it. Like, eventually, everyone, you know, does become the collective consciousness, and that's not really spoiling things. But, like, there's this fight in the background between Nerve and some other people and whatnot, and even saying the angels and whatnot. It's like, what actually is happening here, you know? And then other ones will even go into, like, what is it? There's other ones that is actively going towards that and seeing it as a good thing as well, So like there's this kind of spectrum there. Like, should we become God or should we become individual gods? It's like
what
it's
level
like
of
this,
humanity should we become, basically?
yeah, should we become a hive mind or something like that, or should we become like our own individual gods? It's like it's very, and that which would I think would be more of the Ubermensch, but I don't know. Like it's such a, because like we even don't know like if there is God, is it like that collective just pool of minds, or is it like pluralistic where there's like individual gods?
Yeah, and we'll never know because it's all after the fact. If it is.
Yeah, I feel like we're just ants in an ant farm and we can't know the outside world kind of thing.
Yeah, we have no idea that we're in a glass cage.
And I feel like Nietzsche coming in and saying like God is dead is like breaking the glass on the ant farm,
Yeah, and having us spill out into the universe.
And it causes a lot of chaos, like realizing that religion won't solve our problems is, I think, one of the reasons we had all the atrocities in the 20th century. Because like all of a sudden, and I think Nietzsche said this too, is we lost our faith and now we're trying to use other things to replace it.
Yep, we're in a crisis.
That's why you got all these like authoritarian tyrants, like trying to make government and like the party like
the
almost
Ubermensch.
Like,
yeah,
well, like almost making it into like the holy entity.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm. So like yeah, and see that's kind of like they're using nihilism in a almost like Machiavellianistic way,
Yeah, as a means to an end to dominate the rest of the state or the rest of the peoples in their country through the lens of your lives don't have meaning. I can give your life meaning.
And that kind of touches on Kant too.
Yeah.
Right. Like see people as an end to a mean rather than a means to an end. Right.
Utilitarianism and all that fun stuff.
Well, utilitarianism, I think
that's Kant.
Is it Kant?
Yeah.
I thought it went back to another person.
My college brain is telling me it's Kant.
Oh, well, I'm not really super well versed in Kant. I kind of read up on his stuff about sublimity, but not really too much about.
Maybe that's an episode for another time. We can do some research.
Yeah.
To wrap this one up, so we have like 10 or 12 minutes left. How do we deal with the feeling of meaninglessness? Feeling of having no meaning.
Well,
the end goal of nihilism.
Cody, to be honest, I just pop a cold one and just do heroin and just sit back and relax. That's the answer to it, man. Just be on heroin just all the time, just enough to get you that buzz, but just not enough to kill yourself. But I mean, like, that's the other thing. Like, a lot of the nihilists say, like, it's best just, like, to leave this world as quickly as possible, but without suicide kind of thing.
Yeah. I feel like pure optimist nihilists have the idea of having a good death, I think is something I've read before, in the sense of instead of living a good life, you're trying to make it so that when you die, you've left like a mark, kind of. I don't know. I've totally lost my train of thought there. But I know I've read that phrase, to have a good death instead of a good life, basically. And maybe that was a Buddhist thing. Well,
I've heard that from Fanfang's yoga teacher in
you've said
India.
That to me.
Yeah. Like they talk about, like he said, yoga is about having a good death and not a good life. Because usually when you have a good death, it's because you had a good life.
Yeah.
But how I see it is like I look at it through a Taoist lens, is that it doesn't really matter what you do. Like whatever you do, like the universe isn't gonna. And I think actually, like, after like revisiting nihilism, I am actually kind of surprised that a lot of it just like connects with a lot of the stuff that I believe in just intrinsically, you know, because like it's, the universe just doesn't care, you know, but at the same time you can use this to your advantage. And that's optimistic nihilism, is like that we can figure out something that will work. And it's also something I thought back in China, is that let's not put ourselves in the arena with gods. Let's put ourselves in the arena with other humans, because that's where we have a playing zone. Because like just be the best humans we can be, rather than, because like a lot of people, especially me, you know, is like, I grew up, well, our generation grew up watching YouTube videos of all these amazing people, you know, playing like guitar, and like Billy Sheehan, like that guy, you know, Paul Gilbert, all those guys. It's just like, you look at those people and you're just like, I can't do that. They're like godly existence. Buckethead, all these people you grow up with it, and you just feel horrible about yourself. But then you realize, you know, it's like, they're not gods. They're humans, and we can do that too. We just got to practice as much as they do. Like Steve Vai practiced like 10 hours a day.
Yep.
You know,
even through shoulder surgery and broken thumbs. They just practice. Or he told the story on something recently. He told of his first live show with Frank Zappa. He was so sick that they had to wheel him on stage tied to one of those like loading dock things, basically, that you load boxes up onto. Not a forklift, but just a dolly, basically. They had to
lift?
No, a dolly.
A sporklift, final answer.
But they had to wheel him out on that, and he was throwing up while he was playing guitar, basically, on stage.
Metal.
And he was like, he got off stage and he was like, I had to have screwed that up or something. And Zappa saw him afterwards. He's like, you look like somebody who just started on tour.
Frank Zappa, man. That guy really, he's something, man. He's something. But
I think people take nihilism in the wrong direction with like in the modern day with like social media and stuff, because like under those videos we watched, a lot of the comments are these really young, impressionable kids that think that meaningless means, oh, don't do anything with your life. And just like a lot of comments I saw were like, I only keep from killing myself because it's my human instinct to not want to end my own life. So I just lay about and don't do anything, and I get apathetic and depression and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's the wrong way to take the universe doesn't care.
And well, the thing is, I remember, because I used to be suicidal back in high school, and I remember thinking like many times, like, okay, like if I kill myself, why does it matter? Why am I killing myself? It's almost like if everything doesn't matter, then why am I giving meaning to my killing myself? Like, I thought that, and I'm like, okay, well then I guess just don't kill yourself. But then I got to a point where I was like, well, if I'm so mad at the world, then why don't I just like say, and this is something that I heard on Dave Chappelle recently too. Love that guy. But like, it was something that I thought too at that point, is like, okay, then just start doing stuff, start doing risky stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like I decided, okay, well, I'm going to start traveling, you know, because like, fuck it. Or like something like as little as like, okay, if nothing means anything, then why am I doing all this homework? Why am I doing this essay that counts for 30% of my grade? So I decided for one class, and actually I've done it for multiple classes now because fuck those classes. Like I was someone in high school that would get either a perfect score or an F because I would either do it or I wouldn't do it. You know, if I thought an assignment was stupid, I would just not do it. And then I don't care, you know, like, and so there was one assignment I remember, and I'm really proud of this, to be honest, is there was an assignment I just didn't want to do that was worth 30% of my grade. And I looked at my grade percentage average, and I looked at like how colleges like recruit people and how jobs recruit people, and that it doesn't really matter about grade point average past a certain percent. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if I got an A in that class, it would be like a 0.01 difference. And I was like, well, I'll get a C in this class. So I just didn't do it. And I got a C in the class, and it barely touched my GPA. And then I was able to do other stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Through just like stopping caring about some of those things, I just found myself, you know? And like I started learning, I actually started learning. I actually started like learning languages. I actually started learning philosophy instead of like, you know, I also remember when I was in an English class and I started really getting into music theory. I started reading really, really hard music theory books in class. And I remember my English teacher was having us do this poem assignment and had it on the projector. And just was like, okay, I'm going to have you guys be silent for 15 minutes and read this and just interpret it. And I was just like, well, that's really, like, the poem was just like really mundane and stupid. And I was just like, I'm going to just read my music theory books and, you know, do something I want to do. And I started reading because my English teacher, she was like really, really curmudgeon-y. She was like a really, really like grumpy old woman. And she came over and saw me reading there and not doing the assignment, and just like came over all mad and just like took the book and was just like, Laz, put down that book and start reading. And then it was silent for a few seconds. And then she realized what she said. And then everyone started laughing. And then from that day on, she hated me. She hated my guts. I didn't even say anything. I just read in class and she made herself look dumb. You know, but you know, like when you come back to it, like how do we, you know, deal with the just gaping void that is our existence? Just do and stop thinking so much.
Yeah,
really.
Life is full of like infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm. That's
what life
the other
means.
Thing.
It's infinite.
To me, like infinite possibilities. When it boils down to it, it doesn't matter. Like it, just keep doing stuff. And the thing that really fucks people up is our mind itself. It just keeps ruminating, and rumination is what makes us like. I mean, it's good to think, but at the same time, it's also bad to think too much.
Yeah, that's actually in the like first book of Zarathustra. There's actually a section on basically like if you hermit too much and don't have anybody to like confide in or anything, to have a friend to kind of pull you out of your own rumination, you're headed for disaster, basically.
And it happens in Eva too. I think it's not like the end of Evangelion, but the original end to it, where Shinji, like the whole universe just turns to nothing, and then Shinji is by himself and said, it's like now you can do anything you want. It's just a white abyss. And he's like, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. And it's like, oh my God, I have such anxiety about everything. And then like whatever voice it was, like God, I suppose, just said, here, I'll give you a line. This is your only limitation in the world. And then Shinji started walking on that line. And it was like, oh, I feel so much better now. It's like sometimes the limitations that life gives us like a guideline, you know, and that we give ourselves limitations to things. It's like the same reason, like when I compose, I tell myself, okay, like I'm going to work within these parameters. Like I will write a song with only the note B, you know? And then like, how do I make this interesting with just the note B, you know? Like those limitations can like actually make you squeeze out possibility and creativity, you know? So I think that, and I wish I would have told this to myself back in high school, is like, you know, I forgot. It almost became a good moment, but whatever. It doesn't matter.
There you go. That's the perfect way to end the episode. It doesn't matter. Like, comment, subscribe if you want. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Welcome to Nihilism, kids.
I just want to say, I talked about being suicidal and whatnot. Take it from me, like I've gone through very, very dark places. Like, if you're in that place, first of all, find help. Find help. Please find help, because you won't be able to do it yourself. Like when I really start changing, it was when I started finding help. But eventually you wean off the people that help you. You need to find help before you can help yourself. So really, if there's just do something. That's the thing. Even I'm depressed now. Just do something. Start something, anything. Like a lot of times with me, always my mind will race, and it used to race even more. And just like, I can't hold on to anything. It's just like anything. If it's like, okay, it's like, I'm going to make a sandwich. Go make a fucking sandwich. Don't think about it. Just start doing it and you'll feel a little better. And then you baby steps. It's baby steps out of the hole. So really just call the suicide line, you know, go somewhere, go to a library, just sit there. Even if you feel like you don't have any friends, do something, go out into the world, you know, just do it, you know? And that's what I learned in China with my Russian friend. He was like, Laz, you think, but you never do, you know? And he's, man, like, I fucking love that guy, to be honest. Like, he's such a great guy. But yes, I just want to say that before we end it up. Like, seriously, like, I really hope everyone can, like, help the other people help them, you know? So, yep. From the bottom of my heart, you guys have something out there for you, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
I fully agree. Let's hop back in the pond.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Exactly. Yep. Bye-bye.